Heidi ho, friends and family. How are things tonight? A recent study produced some rather inconclusive results when looking into the topic of trucking pay and long-haul trucking. In a podcast hosted by Landline Online, Jason Miller with the Department of Supply Chain Management had this to say about a recent report released on the topic.
So yeah, this study was just recently released, and like I said, we're looking into driver pay. That this was commissioned by FMCSA. Essentially, we came to a finding of no finding. I guess is the most broad way to paint that. So it's basically inconclusive.
There isn't effectively a way to piece out effects of different compensation systems, because the vast majority of drivers are going to be paid on some type of piece rate basis.
So we're asking some hard-hitting questions of this, and if the government gave you money to trade in your diesel for a cleaner alternative, what would you do? Know the answer? Well, stick around. This and more on tonight's Frontlines of Truckin. Heidi ho, and we're broadcasting from inside the Truckin City Mobile Studios, back on the road and back behind the mic, having more fun than any news show host is allowed to have on YouTube. Boss Man here, single-handedly pointing out that there is always a way to make trucking great again. Doing so with a skill granted by God himself to restore your faith in broadcast talent. Using communication skills adopted over many years of time and talent. Talking about ways to one by one make trucking better, make trucking profitable, and make trucking great again.
Shall we begin?
From Truckin City Central Command, you are on the front lines. Truckin News.
The semi-truck driver accused of causing that deadly crash on Highway 285 this week, now under arrest.
Cutting edge opinion, and we will make trucking great again. Built for truckers.
You should be hauling that freight based on what works for you.
By truckers.
Remember, get them done.
Featuring.
I think trucking is a very good career.
And I am gonna beat them.
I'm gonna beat him too.
We don't do it just for us and our families. We do it for you guys.
Remember, truckers are people too.
Hosted by the El Rushbo of Truckin News, Boss Man. 860-785-3547. Call our studio lines, be part of the show. Also email us at thatstruckinnews@outlook.com. Greetings to you, truck lovers, truth seekers, and visionaries all across the world and heartland. We are back behind the golden TIB microphone, giving you the best call-in show. That's right. For truckers, by truckers. Run by me, the CIC of the Truth in Broadcasting Network. We have with us tonight a panelist selection to be proud of. We have with us Larry the Trucker, who's part of the gang, always willing to give of himself and talk track about anybody that gives it back to him. We are talking also to Thumper and Bo, who normally is in the truck, but today is kind of on the scenes doing some side-by-side business. We've got Fate Trucking in the house, giving you the best of the Reefer Gang with us tonight. And we've also got from the Northern Alberta territories, Poet, the Magician. No, he's actually Poet, the Great. I'll leave it at that. They're all well, they're all good, they're all prepared and willing to give up their time and talk to you tonight about trucking and driver pay. If you got ideas for future stories, take a moment, go down below, hit the like button, become a subscriber, and send off an email to the show at thatstruckinnews@outlook.com. That's truckinnews@outlook.com. You can call the show anytime during the show at 860-785-3547. 860-785-3547. Let's talk tonight about a couple of honorable mentions. I've taken some time to talk about some headlines worth mentioning, and that's what they are, just headlines worth mentioning. A small trucking company owns the last and only 2025 Peterbilt Model 389X. Rush Enterprises, Inc. recently announced the winner of their sweepstakes to give away the last and only 2025 Peterbilt 389 ever produced, after having a sweepstakes to do so with proceeds benefiting the Wounded Warrior Project. The sweepstakes ended the 15th of September, and the winner was announced during the American Trucking Association's Management Conference and Exhibition in Nashville on October 14th. More on this in the article, which is linked in the description below. Have at it. Good read. Hope you enjoy it. Truckers need extra time to deliver goods due to the I-40 closures. As you all know, Helene wreaked havoc with not only northern Florida and the Panhandle, but also western North Carolina. It's really messed a lot of people up. And a news report was filed by Carolina Fox News talking with local trucking companies on the impact of the closures of both I-40 and I-26. Some reports suggested delays and costs associated could add up to more money and cost to the end consumer. If you're interested in more on that, let me know in the comments below or send me an email. That's truckingnews@outlook.com. The link's below. You can have at it, read it. It's a 2-minute broadcast from Fox News in the Carolinas. Now that we've covered the mentions, now it's time for me to cover tonight's opening thoughts. And tonight, my opening thoughts are on the EPA. If you go to any poker tournament, one thing is true. You see a lot of straight faces, and you only see 4 aces. And this cannot be said about the EPA. The Biden and Harris administration is back with their latest stunt, another $125 million grant thrown at the so-called clean technology upgrades for the trucking industry. They're calling it progress, but I'm calling it a recipe for disaster. Let's break down this, because the government is pushing harder and faster to transform the backbone of our economy. Diesel-powered trucks into electric yard ornaments, all in the name of a utopian zero emissions fantasy. Let me tell you something, guys. This administration, in its haste to make headlines and appease the radical environmentalists, are skipping over critical issues that nobody wants to talk about. They're obsessed with painting this perfect picture of clean air and zero emissions. But are they prepared for what happens when Mother Nature strikes? When hurricanes hit, or when wildfires knock out the power grid? Yeah, we've just seen it in action, haven't we? The recent hurricanes swept through the Gulf and wiped out power for hundreds of thousands and crippled our infrastructure by knocking out roads all over western North Carolina. You think all of these electric yard trucks are going to be of any use when the power goes out? Let me tell you something. When disaster strikes, diesel gets the job done. Look, I'm all for clean air, and we've made great strides over the years, but it's economic suicide. The administration is desperate to push this green agenda, so much so that in doing so, they're ignoring the cold, hard facts. We've had decades of innovation and development in diesel technology, and it works. Diesel keeps America moving, and it's proven its backup plans for when things go wrong, far and above, always get the job done. You know, you can't just switch out the foundation of an entire industry overnight because you want a pat on the back for saving the planet. Well, what they're not telling you folks is the hidden dangers lurking behind this massive technological shift. We've already had emergency response plans in place that rely on diesel because it's reliable. And trust me, rushing into this fantasy without proper planning and reliable backup systems, it'll cripple the country when we need it most. We're talking about potential economic ruin here. Jobs lost, trucks stranded, goods not delivered, families suffering. The EPA is pushing for all electric solutions, but they're not addressing the real problem. The infrastructure for electric trucks doesn't exist. And what little it does is in its infancy, and it's a case of natural disasters exposing the vulnerability in a heartbeat, and we've seen it in action. And let's not forget the price tag on all this. Small trucking companies are already feeling the pinch from inflation, and now they're expected to fork over even more to upgrade to electric. Come on now. Here's the kicker. This is all part of a broader plan to buy out the industry. Comment down below if you agree with me. Let's start this conversation. They want to force small and independent truck owner operators, the backbone of this American economy, out of business. Why? Because big corporations can afford to play this game. They can afford to be part of this $125 million grant. It isn't about clean air, and this isn't about anything more than control. It's about consolidating power in the hands of a few at the expense of the many. The American trucker deserves better than to be steamrolled by bureaucrats who've never set foot in a rig. We've spent years building this system, and it works. And now we're being told to throw it all out for the shiny new toy. Let me ask you, when's the last time the government rushed through anything without actually doing what they promised? So I want to hear from you, the American truckers, the folks who keep this country moving. What say you? Is this administration throwing us under the bus? Or should I say, the all-electric truck? Do you think the so-called solutions will work? What do you say? Let's talk about things to consider and see what it is you guys think of this electric revolution. Let's bring on the panel and have an honest discussion. What do you guys think? Guys, I don't know about you, but I think this is all for nothing. First question on the panel to Larry. Would you buy an all-electric truck if the government told you that they'd pay for most of it?
No.
What do you think of their $125 million grant?
No, I still wouldn't buy one.
Okay.
Diesel's where it's at. Diesel's where I came in at, and I'll go out with the diesel.
Mm-hmm. Do you think it's a case of the technology, or is it just that new in your mind?
It's new, but yet old never dies.
Right. So are you of the mindset that we should just let this new technology fester for a while and still build on it and then make the switch?
I would agree with that. I mean, that's nowhere near ready for this.
I mean, you're either ready or you're not. But as far as I'm concerned, I think with basically just what I've read and what I've written here tonight, I don't think we're ready. I think a lot more time and a lot more research has to be involved. So, Thumper, what do you think? Would you give of your diesel inventory for the promise of cleaner energy and better economy, just because the government's offering you money to do it?
Nope.
Hmm?
I definitely wouldn't, because how much is it to replace the battery if it goes bad, or how much is it to replace one of the electric motors or anything like that? If they're gonna pay me to buy it, but I have to cover the repair bills, Diesel, as Larry said, diesel's proven itself. We've been relying on diesel for how many of years? Close to what, 50, 60 years, 70 years, or whatever it is. And there's nothing wrong with diesel. Actually, diesel is one of the better cleaning fuels out there. The black
Yeah.
smoky, because people turn up the power and it's unburnt fuel. That's all
Right.
that black smoke is.
Yeah. Yeah. Speaking from someone who's based a large part of their business model on fuel economy, are you necessarily sold by this idea, Fate, that the government's going to give you money to go all green, or are you still looking at ways you can better suit your economy to fit your business model?
Show me the money. I'll take the money. I ain't gonna buy an electric truck with it. I'll take the money. No, so like as an avid outdoorsman and things like that, like I'm in conservation, I believe in clean air, I believe in all that stuff. But we're trying to take huge giant leaps and steps when in reality the technology isn't there yet. You can't, like what I do, I could not do in an electric truck. I just couldn't do. But if the government wants to give me money, as long as I don't got to give it back to them, yeah, give me the money. I'll take it.
Right. There you go. I mean, right now, I've got one thing to consider: technology failures and hidden dangers. And the question behind that is, will electric trucks create more problems than what they solve? What do you think, Faye? I mean, think about it. We're reliant and have a proven track record with diesel trucks right now. And as we've already pointed out, many have said, we have emission standards, I think, very well spoken for. Now, you put this whole thing on its head. You force people to turn in their diesel trucks and put them in electric. That's going to turn everybody upside down. Your audio is not coming through, Faye. Yeah, we lost your audio.
Can you hear me?
Now I can, yes.
No matter how left I lean, this is a horrible idea. Absolutely horrible idea.
Well, I thought I'd pick on that point because I know you're kind of in that camp, but I think basically they're trying to sell out the industry. That is mainly my point by tonight's opening thoughts.
I gotta disagree with that. I don't like they're doing it across the board to everything. They're doing it at the ports. They're doing it at the railroad. They're doing it everywhere, right? Sure. It's not that they're picking on our industry. It's that they're picking on. They're looking at the highest pollutants and trying to go after that first. Now, I don't think trucking is high on that level, but we have people like Tesla and Nikola and stuff like that creating these electric trucks. All you got to do is follow the money. You're talking about the most richest people in the world that own these companies.
Yep.
Who's promoting this? All you got to do is follow I wouldn't say the government wants to end trucking. I would say Elon Musk wants to end trucking.
Yep. As far as whether I read the article, I mean, obviously I opined on it. I didn't read every single detail midlife. Whether it applies to one carrier or even 10, the point isn't who it applies to. The point is you're expecting everyone in the industry to eventually conform and do this. And yet there's not enough infrastructure to do it. Yes, some local guys can do it, but not the over the road drivers, people like us. A Tesla semi uses 27 cents in electricity to move freight a mile in California. You can't come close to that. You can't come close to even double that in California. True that. But again, we're differentiating the difference between regional versus over the road. You can't compare those two industries without making a subtle difference in what powers the engine block. What say you, Thumper?
Okay. All right. I had to mute my mic. Okay, so I want to point something out here a little bit. It actually costs more to charge an electric vehicle than it does to run diesel or gasoline down the road. I mean, you sit there and think, oh, the coal, the stuff that it cost, the materials, the lithium, and all that other stuff. Diesel, it costs way more. That's why they're more expensive. But with the electrical grid and everything, I think we had this discussion once before. It's going to overload the electrical grid, and they're going to be producing more power than it is to stick to us with our gasoline and diesel engines. That's kind of what I wanted to add.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's kind of my thought and my theory on the whole thing. I mean, it's one thing to expect a gradual change, but it's another, force it down everybody's throat immediately. And I think I've been of the mindset before, and I still say, even today, it's too much too soon. So, I look at what they're doing with this grant thing, just based on the fact that they're not ready. I look at it as a sellout maneuver. I really do. I mean, the government's zero emissions timeline, first of all, I think it's a fantasy. I mean, because they want people to stop selling them by 2042, I think, and then by 2050, they just don't want them on the road. I think there's not enough time. I've said it in previous lives, and I'll say it again. I really think a little bit more time and research has to be devoted into the practice of switching over from diesel to electric. Now, Poet, I'm going to give you a say here in a minute, but I've got in the background a source by which this show is going to change dramatically. Go ahead, Poet.
Okay, so you know where I'm at.
Mm-hmm.
So we have a nationwide power grid,
right?
Run by different power companies.
Mm-hmm.
Once you head north of the 60th parallel, okay, the power grid is non-existent. All little, or most, I wouldn't say all, most little towns are run by diesel generators.
Mm-hmm.
In the winter, minus 60 Fahrenheit during the day is not uncommon.
That's true.
How are these batteries going to last?
I haven't heard enough on the science behind that, but I'm sure that we'll find out in due time. I know for a fact the colder they get, the less resilience they have. That's a fact. I mean, how common is it for just regular cars to have dead batteries on cold days? Exactly. Gentlemen, let me ask your patience. I'm about to bring in a different perspective on this conversation. I'm going to introduce Midlife Trucker to the conversation. How do you do, Midlife? Welcome to the show.
I'm listening to every single one-liner bumper sticker argument that you guys throw out and rolling my eyes.
And why is that, sir? I give everybody equal say. You can have yours too.
Everything from the electric grid to the cold weather to they're forcing us to do it. None of it's true. None of it. Not a single bit of it. You got an inverter in your, you guys haven't, we have an inverter in our trucks, right?
Yes.
Your inverter makes 1800, converts 1800 watts of electricity.
Correct.
If you, okay, when you're running your microwave and you're running your coffee maker and you're watching TV, you need every single watt you can get.
True that.
When you're driving down the road, you got something plugged in the back charging your phone, and that's about it. Still making 1800 watts, right?
True that.
Okay, that nuclear power plant, that nice big plant Vogel with four reactors down in Georgia, is generating electricity 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Where's all that electricity go at night?
And the point you're making by that question, I don't get. What
we
are
have
you trying
plenty
to
of
prove?
electricity.
Okay, it's certain times of the day, yes. But what
How
about
do
the
you,
times
how do
when
you get
everyone
people?
needs it?
How do you get people to use electricity certain times of the day?
You vary the charge. You vary the cost of the electricity. Right.
Which they already do. Commercial
Right.
electricity is charged based on when you use it. The same thing with charging a Tesla. It's based on when you use
same
it.
principle
You
of
charge a
supply and
Tesla.
demand. We all know about that.
You charge a Tesla in the middle of the daytime, you're going to pay 45 cents a kilowatt hour. You charge that same Tesla in the middle of the night, you're going to pay 7 cents.
True.
And that's exactly how they do it.
Well, the only point you're making, and I agree with, is that supply and demand will dictate the cost of the product being supplied. But how does that change whether or not the middle of Arizona in the freaking desert, when you stop at a fueling station at said location, you can get 100 gallons of diesel. But are you going to be able to get quickly all the electric you need to continue on through that desert and make it into California? Probably not.
Yes.
Right now, that electric infrastructure hasn't been built yet.
Again, what's the range on the car?
Well, a car, maybe 200, 300 miles.
Okay, let's take a truck. Let's say it's got a 500-mile range, which is what the Tesla long range has. So you have a 500-mile range. There was a thing called Run for Less 2024. They've done it every year. It's actually put on by the oil companies. And if you look at the 3 Tesla semis that participated in it, one of them got more than 1,000 miles in a single 24-hour day. And 2 days in a row, he broke 600 miles.
I can fill up my diesel right now.
Keep in mind, these are
miles out on a full tank. So
you don't do that in one day. You don't do that in one day.
Well,
the point
you can't do that in one day in electric either.
Yes, they did. He not only could do it, he did do it. Look it up. Run on. Yes, absolutely. Look at Run on Less. Look up the stats. You can look at all the data verified by Qualcomm.
I'll look up the article you're talking about. I don't doubt what you're saying.
It's not just article. They have all the stats. They have all the actual data. You could watch it in real time when it was happening.
Yeah.
Every single day, you could sit there and look at what these electric trucks did. Not all of them were electric, by the way. They had some hybrid. They had gasoline. They had hydrogen.
My last question to you, Tom, is this: what would be feasible for someone like yourself or me that have a current business model set up for one person, not a team, that only needs to drive 600 to 700 miles a day, and we just need to get the job done without worrying about having to stop for 10 hours to fuel
that's
up?
Again another ignorant myth.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is. It doesn't take 10 hours to charge a Tesla semi.
If you can only get 500 miles worth
in
of
30 minutes, a Tesla semi recharges to 75% of battery. In 30 minutes. Takes 2 hours to fully charge one. So where's your 10 hours come from? It comes from something you read on a bumper sticker.
No, I know what I'm doing is I'm posing the probability that you may have to take a 10-hour break in a place that you can't fuel up, that you can't get land.
Do you know why we don't have the infrastructure right now for electric trucks charging everywhere in the world? Because you don't need it. You don't go building the infrastructure for something that's not out yet. Pepsi Cola and Frito-Lay and a few other people have these. So they have put charging stations everywhere they are. Let's flip this around. Let's say, how do you make electric cars work? You now don't have a choice. The dinosaur fuel is all gone. What are you going to do? How do you make it work? What if we had charging stations that say refrigerated warehouses? What if you had charging stations? I mean, you're sitting there in the dock complaining about detention for 4 hours. You're plugged in. Takes 2 hours to charge a vehicle.
I've got you fired up, and I haven't even started. That started.
Well, the point is, instead of looking for why it can't happen, look at how it can happen, because that's what they're doing. And by the way, Elon Musk opposes this clean air rules.
Yeah. Oh, I know he does. And
you know why he opposes it?
Why is that?
He wants everybody to stay in diesel trucks, because the more people in diesel trucks, the higher the cost of diesel fuel, the more sought after his trucks are. And just think about this. The higher that you want electric cars to come out, you want more and more people to buy electric cars, because the more people buy them, the less people need gasoline and diesel. All right, get somebody else a chance.
Okay, God bless you. Go ahead, Pate.
No, Tom, are you still here?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he's waiting.
You're a quarter. I don't want to say you're half wrong. You're a quarter wrong about Elon. Why does Elon want diesel trucks to stay on the road? Because he gets federal money to argue the fact of, hey, look, we can put Tesla trucks on the road. And these charging stations that Pepsi and who's the chip, Frito-Lay,
Yeah,
Is it
Elon,
Frito-Lay?
which is also owned by Pepsi. Keep in mind, Elon does not want more demand for electric trucks. You know why? He can't build them fast enough.
Not only that,
he
he
literally
gets more money.
can't build trucks. He's got a 5-year delivery schedule right now. He does not want demand to go up because then people will get pissed and want more money. They'll want their money back. He does not want any more demand. Hell, he helped another electric car maker, and as you know, he has no patents. All his patents are available for anybody.
Yes, 100%. You understand that Elon gets more federal money than anybody on this planet.
We should look up and find out how much federal money he gets, because he's a whack job.
His company. That's what built his company, was off of federal grant money. And I'm not saying Elon is like bad for that. I got to be very careful at how I phrase this, because I don't think he is an evil genius or anything like that. I think he is playing the system exactly how a lobbyist plays the system. And he's able to take away NASA and say, fund me, and I will put in all my money and go broke over this to put rockets in space and shoot cars into space and say we're going to Mars.
He's had this dream of going to Mars since he was a child.
Right.
And
but
so
what I'm saying is, if you have a government that will fund that dream, aren't you going to chase that dream at any cost, even if it means you deplete your massive wealth, which I believe he would. Like, that's why I'm saying I hope I'm not painting him out to be like evil in any way. I think he would go broke to accomplish his dream, but he's not going to go broke, because the minute he says he's broke, our government will be there with our tax dollars and say, here you go.
Yeah. They provided bailouts. They provided bailouts many times in the past. Let me bring on a caller who's been patiently waiting in the background. Caller, welcome to the show. What say you, my friend?
Everything. The only thing I'm just going to have to say is that right now the U.S. economy is not ready for electric. They're not even trying to get it to the point where it needs to be. Going electric ain't a bad idea to have alternatives to stuff. But right now, with the economy, they're just destroying everything because they're trying to switch everything over at once, and they're not even trying to get the infrastructure to the point where it needs to be. And they can attest that, well, if it's negative 50 up in Minnesota, how the hell is a battery truck going to get around at 500 miles in terms of the range? And if you got, let's say, 1 million trucks that all battery powered have to shut down at the same time, or is there going to be enough charging stations and enough capacity to charge the truck and parking for the amount of time that you need to get it done? At least with the diesel engine stuff, you can fuel up and go. You take 15 minutes to get 200 gallons of fuel, then you can get going again and finish out. My biggest complaint stuff right now is the ELD stuff, because they told you at least at 11 hours. Because I just, like, for example, I just did 663 miles at an average of 62.5 miles, but I only had a half an hour, and I only still have to go another 200 miles before I have to deliver it. I could have got to where I needed to be today on delivery, but I couldn't do it legally.
No. Well, that was the legality issue I brought up earlier, but, you know, again, you try to work with the equipment you have, and to bring your point into it, the point I was making earlier, if you're putting negative 10-degree weather in the equation, you know, that discussion Midlife and I were having a minute ago, I think would be seriously altered by the degree, the fact you're not going to get as efficient performance out of a battery in colder weather.
Where's Tesla's proving grounds?
I have no freaking clue.
I got to step in here.
Where's Tesla's proving grounds? Does anybody know?
I don't.
It's in Alaska.
Okay. Go ahead, Fate. What did you want to say?
I got to step in here because what you're saying, God, I feel like and I think that's Griff on the phone.
It is.
I feel like I'm kind of contradicting myself here, which I am. Diesel does not perform well in minus 10-degree weather. We've all experienced gel ups and lower fuel economy in colder weather and all those things. So that argument, I don't agree with. I get why the argument's made, but being in Minnesota, I see Tesla vehicles on the road all year long. They're not stranded. They're not broke down.
The battery is seriously diminished in colder weather. I mean, that's not.
When you say seriously, put a number behind it.
He is right. Look what happened in Chicago last year.
Oh, no. Again, another one of those one-liners, read the headline, saw the picture, didn't read the story.
No, I read the story.
No, you didn't.
No, you didn't.
You wouldn't have thrown that statement out.
It happened in New York, too.
It happened to people who did not charge. It happened to people who did not charge their vehicles, but once or twice a week, and who waited till they were almost out of charge. The normal person who owns an electric vehicle plugs it in every day, and it only gets a little bit of charge. They keep it topped off. It has a 500-mile range or a 300-mile range if you have a short range. And here, if you have a 300-mile range, you're going to plug your car in every day, and the average driver doesn't put 300 miles on a car in a week.
Tom.
Go ahead.
Midlife. Sorry. I'm sorry. Midlife. You just accused me of not reading the article.
Wait, 1 second. Let Griff get a word, then you can go, Fate. Go ahead. I'm sorry, Fate. Or Griff, go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry, but electric vehicles are good for a metro area. Okay. Okay, you were going on about, say, San Diego to Yuma, Arizona. That's 300 miles. You're in the middle of the desert. Yeah, you can kind of do that. But you're only about 150, 200 miles distance between a major metropolitan area, so you can get help.
Right.
But say you're going in the middle, say, British Columbia from Alaska down to Washington with this stuff and everything.
Mm-hmm.
There's not a whole lot. There's not even a lot of fuel stations. I may be wrong, so Bullet might can verify more, but when you go from Alaska between Washington and Alaska, so you're going maybe 500, 600, 700 miles.
Mm-hmm.
How many times a year do you make that trip?
Yes, how many times a year you make that trip, Griff?
Well, I'm not doing it. It's a bit,
Well, I'm asking, how many times a year do you make a trip that's going to exceed your 500-mile range of your electric car?
Well, I think the point.
I just went 600 miles right now.
Yeah.
And I'm in a diesel truck.
I think the point he's trying to make, Tom. I think the point he's trying to make, Tom, is that we already have a situation. We already have a situation where we have a number of places where the fueling stations, just for diesel alone, are sporadic and they're far apart. You put in this electric thing, that's another unknown.
Okay, you're looking for every negative. You're looking for every negative, far out situation you can make instead of looking at the normal. We have a rule in business: we don't build the church for Easter Sunday. Everybody says, "Oh, I can't take a vacation and drive my electric car." If you make one vacation a year where you're going to exceed the range of the car, rent a freaking car.
Well, that's true. But at the same time, I'm asking the hard questions. A lot of people are asking. I'm not pulling fake headlines, and I'm not pulling, like in the case you're accusing Fate of not reading. What I'm doing is I'm asking the questions that need to be asked. We're dealing with what I view as a sellout of the industry. We have now a system that works, and what you're looking to do as a government is upturn that system.
So you want to pay more for diesel? Okay, write this down. He wants more regulation, and he wants to pay more for diesel.
Now, what you're going to do?
How much more? Let's ban all electric trucks, all hydrogen trucks, all compressed natural gas, and watch the price of diesel go through the roof.
What you're going to do is hold tight and let Fate make his point. A minute ago, he wanted to counter your argument, saying he thought you accused him of not reading an article. So go ahead, Fate.
What I was saying was you accused me of something without me being able to fully explain what I read. Now, just like if you park your truck in the middle of winter, Not with full tanks like where I'm from. If you don't park your truck with full tanks in the wintertime and you go back to it, that
Properly
truck
treated.
probably isn't going to start.
Exactly.
That's what happened. And it happened in Chicago and it happened in New York. It doesn't matter how many times they charged it. It happened. Now, I'm not saying that is going to happen across the board to every electric vehicle on the road, because like I just said, I'm from Minnesota and I see them all year long. I will also say probably the guy that leans more left than anybody on this panel, like trucking's changing. Like, we don't need to worry, like Griff was talking about, going 800 some miles. We might not have to do that. We might bring it 500 miles and there's another carrier there to swap out the trailer and move on, just like FedEx does, just like a ton of LTL companies do. Yep. Trucking is changing. Yeah. Do I think like what Tom just said, you don't build the church for Easter Sunday? You also don't put the cart in front of the horse. And we're doing that. Now you brought up charging stations. Understand that charging stations are also federally funded right now. And the more electric vehicles get on the road, the more charging stations there are going to be, because they're giving tax breaks to build them to these companies and to these businesses. Like Midlife said earlier, being parked at a dock, plugged in, I think is a good idea. Just like I think we should be able to plug our reefers in. Yep. You know, but yeah, Midlife, don't accuse me of something without letting me like fully get my point across.
On that, I'm going to let Griff have the last word, and we're going to move on to the next topic. Griff, what do you say?
Well, I agree with Scott, but the infrastructure's not there. They've wasted the money on a lot of different things. Yeah, right now, it took them 50 years to fix the roads, and now they're doing the roads, and they're clogging up the traffic and everything. Mm-hmm. Now, it's going to probably take another 20 or 30 years to get up to the point where if we want to change to electric vehicles now, we would have to have at least the capacity to do it. But right now, we can't, and if we change right now, the economy would go to shit if we went to all electric.
Right.
There is no way in hell that the U.S. electric system will be able to have the capacity to do it, especially since they want to go away from coal. They don't want to do nuclear. They don't want to do all this and stuff. And they're trying to go from the systems that we already had, that we had the capacity, you know, but they have to update it. They have to get it where it's more hardwired.
Mm-hmm.
Just go from the military point of view, since I'm former military.
Yep.
If somebody drops an EMP bomb over the United States, Western, you know, anywhere, it will wipe out all electrical systems and stuff. And if you're running on nothing but batteries, stuff, everything, the only thing that'll be running was the 1950 cars and everything that don't have the computers and stuff.
Very true.
If you go with electrical, you're going to fry everything.
Yeah.
And you're SOL.
Yeah.
So
one of the points. One of the points.
I got my 2 cents in. So.
Yeah, I hear you. One of the points I raised, and I think they're valid concerns, and I think they've yet to be addressed. And I'm going to hold future shows, so comment in the comment section if that's what you'd like. I'm going to explore the comments here again in a minute. I'd like to know if you want to talk more about, quote, backup plans. I'd like to explore that a little bit further and research some of the things that Tom suggested. I haven't, and bring that to you as well. I like that kind of conversation moving forward. Thumper, did you have something you wanted to add? I seen you with your hand up.
Yeah. Now, I kind of turked me the wrong way when Midlife brought up the whole, you're not going to do an X amount of miles.
Mm-hmm.
I just did 1,300 miles yesterday. But it's a little different with my line of work.
Right.
Electric vehicle does not make sense.
Right.
Because I haul cattle and you can't stop. Once they're on the trailer, you cannot stop. So when Midlife brought up the whole, well, you're never going to do that. I'm sorry, but up here in the Midwest, there's cattle trucks everywhere.
Yep.
There's no way you have an X amount of time that those cattle could be in that trailer, and that's it. If they're if they're in that trailer longer than that, they get sick. They have there's just so many variables that can go wrong. So it's
they'll
not
wind up dying.
Huh?
They'll wind up dying.
Yeah. Well, I YouTube. I wasn't trying to say that.
So what percentage of the truck driving population is hauling cattle?
Up here in the Midwest, out of all the trucks that are on the road, and the reason why you guys don't see a whole lot of them because we run at night. Now, I would say up here, it'd be a range from 15 to 25% of trucks up here in the upper Midwest.
Okay.
25 to 30.
Thank you, Poet.
25 to 30% of the semis on the road are pulling cattle.
Good call, Poet. I wouldn't have known that. Good call. I'm glad you figured that out.
And if they're only running at night, then they're running what, 10, 12 hours?
Longer than that.
Well, wait a minute. If you're only running at night, we've got night and day here.
They
also realize too the cattle trucks run under what's called an EPA exempt or not EPA hours of service exemption. Yeah, they don't have to limit their hours as much as the regular drives do.
But I was just told that the reason I don't see that 15 to 25% of the trucks on the road are cattle trucks is because they run at night. But they run more than 12 hours, then why am I not seeing them?
Maybe you got your eyes closed. Let me tell you something, midlife. Cattle up here in Canada, from the minute they are loaded to the minute they have to be offloaded, fed, and watered, the maximum number of hours is 52. I don't know what Sumper has in the USA. Up here, it's 52 hours. So you run your ass off to make sure that the cattle get there in one piece alive.
The BQA in the United States, cattle cannot be in the trailer for more than 26 hours. Then they have to be unloaded and they have to sit for 12 hours.
Yep.
Okay. Again, all great, but I'm not buying this 25% of the trucks on the road are pulling cattle wagons. I got to find that somewhere. I got to see some numbers that show that. Because this is a big United States, and I was told 75% are box vans.
I got Griff asking a question. Ask that again, Griff. And who are you addressing?
Where are you from? Are you from California?
Are you asking that to Midlife or are you asking that to Thumper?
No, and before you go into it, I'm a far-right conservative, lifelong Republican who's already voted for Trump. So don't even start this liberal bull crap. I believe in saving money. I believe in saving money.
Wait a minute. That's not, I don't think that's where Griff was going. That's not where Griff was going.
If I had the money to buy electric trucks, I would run them from LA to either Yuma or to Fields, Nevada. Because the way the regulations in California are right now, you will not be able to run a diesel semi legal efficiently the way they want to do it. Okay.
What regulation?
Electric trucks running back and forth from the port to the yard in Arizona or Arizona stuff. Then diesel combustion truck can pick it up and take it to any other part of the country.
Right.
I can see a business model working that way.
Right.
Now, if you're if eventually the technology will be getting where you can do 1,500 miles with batteries.
Right.
But they have not done that yet. They're about the environment stuff and everything, and the materials that they need for the batteries are some of the biggest environmental damages.
Oh, so we're worried about global warming and the environment now? Man, I tell you what, I'm thinking everybody's turning liberal.
Okay, where did it come to global warming? Okay.
Oh, wait a minute. Are you going full liberal or not?
About the environment.
I don't believe in global warming, okay? I think global warming's a crock of crap.
Wait a minute. Okay, wait. All right. Wait a minute. Griff, hold on. If you don't believe in global warming, then why are you fighting the fight? You're talking about electric trucks and arguing with me about
saves money. It saves money. That's what I care about.
Not
money.
even that.
Money.
Midlife.
Ahead,
Has there been an ice age?
Has there been long time ago.
Okay.
Hey, look, I've been driving hybrid and electric cars since 1997.
Let me ask my question. Let me ask my question here. Has there been an ice age?
Yeah, allegedly. I wasn't alive for it.
Has there been tropical weather throughout the world?
Sure has. But here's the thing, it all happened before we were running around on the planet.
Wait a minute. That would tell you global warming is real.
Oh, wait a minute.
You're arguing.
Is global warming man-made?
That's not what was said.
No.
That's what the global warming crowd believes. He was talking about the battery technology. He's talking about the battery technology is going to cause environmental damage.
I believe in global warming. Do I think man created global warming? No, because are
you worried about the batteries?
I'm not worried about the batteries. I think, listen, I'll be a hypocrite here with what I say about the batteries.
Guys,
right? I think
guys, I'm gonna let Griff make one quick statement, and I get the feeling he's gonna want to hang up here. So go ahead, Griff.
Okay, all I'm gonna say is, everybody's going on about technology. Problem is, the technology's overseas.
Yep.
It's not here in the U.S. Elon is doing a great job, but where do you have to get the batteries, the materials for the batteries? You have to get it from China.
We have to
outsource. Surprise for you. We have the first lithium mine in the United States. It's in Arkansas.
Midlife, you're going to wait a minute. All right. Let him finish his point because I'm already 52 minutes into the show. I've only covered one topic. He'll finish his point and then I'll get to you. Griff, continue.
Okay. We have the resources here, but everybody wants to, I agree on keeping the environment pristine and using, and, not destroying everything. Okay?
Right. Exactly.
We are cutting our own throats if we're depending on a foreign source if we want to go a certain route and everything. It's just like us all depending on electric vehicles at one time when we don't have the infrastructure on it.
Right.
And when you go and switch to that, and there's no way in heck you think we have a problem now?
Yeah.
Getting stuff delivered and everything and the prices?
Yeah.
It will be going triple, if not quadruple, on prices on things.
Exactly. My whole thing and everything I raised was mainly
infrastructure is not there.
Right. My whole thing and mainly what I raised is not just the infrastructure, not just the point you make, but backup plans. We need more time. And I've said that from the first live to this live, and I'll continue standing on it. Whether we can get good range or not, whether Midlife's argument's true or Fate's argument is true, all of that is part and parcel to why it is we need time and we need to talk about and discuss this. Because if we make these mistakes and only then learn, then we're behind an 8 ball we can't get out from in back of. Griff, I appreciate you joining the show over the phone. I appreciate you contributing. We're going to continue on, my friend. Thank you for calling, and you have a blessed day and be safe out there.
You all be safe out there and everything.
All right. Thank you for the call. Fate, I agree with you. I agree. I also agree with Midlife. We do have an issue. What we need time. Okay. As much as what Midlife has said, as much as what you've said, both you guys are true and both you make valid arguments. My thing at the start is it's not going to take a government action to get rid of one thing and jump into another. And if we act too soon, that's going to be putting the cart before the horse, to use your argument, Fate. And I'm afraid of that day coming unless we stop and take time and do it right. Last word to you, Fate.
Well, I hope you understand what my argument is.
I do.
It's coming.
It is.
Like that's my argument. It's coming.
Yeah.
Do I think it's going to happen overnight? Absolutely not. And just based on all the things that in my mind have to happen, just like self-driving semis. I think they're coming. I just don't think it's like ready for immediate use right now, if that makes any sense.
True. Makes sense. I get that. Anyway, that being said, my friend, I'm going to move on to the next part, which is what everybody's tuned into. So if you like this part of the program, do me a favor, go down below, hit the like button. Certainly think about becoming a subscriber because the fun is only just beginning. Oh, why is it nothing works the way I want it to? That's because I have too much going on at the moment. I'll get it figured out. There we go. One thing at a time. Okay, folks. If that wasn't challenging enough and knocking your socks off, I've got a frontline debate that's right at the core of what we talk about frequently on this show, and I've also made a video about it. More on that in a minute. This conversation isn't just about paychecks. Knowing your worth is more than numbers. This is also about respect and worth. Knowing it's about understanding the people behind the wheel are the heartbeat of America's economy. Without you, the wheels of commerce stop turning. But we've got a system in place that tells truckers, you're not worth what you think you are. And I'm going to make a change here for just a second. Oh my God, we're ready. All right, bear with me, guys. I'm dealing with a new system. Sometimes things aren't working right. Now, I've been looking into a landline media analysis argument about trucker pay, where they dive into a recent study on truck driver pay released just 3 days ago by the National Academies of Science. I played a soundbite at the start of this, and let me tell you something. It's a real eye-opener. They spent all kinds of time, they spent all kinds of money, and what did they come up with? They came up with, we don't know. Okay, yeah, that's right. They said they don't know. If paying truckers for all of their time would fix the problem, like driver retention or safety or maybe detention. Gee, sound familiar? They didn't find any conclusive evidence because, well, the carriers, the big guys, well, wouldn't give up the data. It's that old game, folks. The same one playing for years. Let me stop here for just a second. Do you think that's a coincidence? I'll tell you what I think. Carriers know exactly what the data would show. And when you treat your drivers right and you pay them what they're worth, safety improves and drivers stick around. There was a correlation between pay and safety. Some of that was true. That's right. They know that paying more would disrupt little exploitive racket that they've been running since the 80s called deregulation. They don't want to admit it because it's easier and cheaper for them to just spin that revolving door. Drivers keep coming and they keep going. Turnover rates near 100%. Hey, no big deal. They don't care about that. They just need warm bodies behind the wheel, and they want to keep the profit margins where they're happy. But here's where it gets interesting. The study points out something, makes a lot of you say, well, finally. It talks about the myth and the driver shortage. The American Trucking Association keeps waving around this shortage like it's gospel, but the study throws cold water all over that nonsense. ATA's numbers are all proprietary. They're hidden. Kind of like, the carriers kept their pay data out of the study. Well, same thing here. If they admitted the real reason for the turnover and low retention, they'd have to pay drivers more. And this ties directly into a video that I put out recently about overtime pay. Why truckers deserve it. Moreover, I focused on detention pay. And we've been saying for a while now, truckers are pushed to hustle for miles to the point where safety's at a back seat. Drivers are interviewed for this study. They said exactly the same thing. They're incentivized to cut corners. They're incentivized to speed. And they make a living doing risky maneuvers. Why? Because it's all about the money. It's all about the mile. And it's all about the bottom line. Now, I want to bridge this with something we don't talk enough about in this industry. Knowing your worth. The main focus of tonight's point and the focus of tonight's trucking frontline debates is that too many truckers out there don't have a clue what they're worth. They've been fed this lie for years that they're just a cog in the machine and that they're replaceable. Let me tell you something, guys. Listen close. You're not just a cog, okay? You are the machine. Without you, this country grinds to a halt. And it's time we stop letting the carriers, the ATA, and all of those other people who are bottom line fascinated and who've never stepped foot into a rig tell you what you're worth. Only you can determine that. Now, hopefully later on, if we don't run very, very long, I've got a few tips I want to make known to the public. If you watch through to the end, I'm going to tell you those tips. I want to talk about how you can really start knowing your worth and get ahead of the game. In the meantime, let's bring back the panelists and those still with us in the audience, and let's talk about ways to know your worth and things we may not be aware of in this study on trucker pay. So let's have at it, guys. When it comes down to trucker pay, does it really equate? I don't know if any one of you on the panel has seen the video I put out recently talking about driver detention and overtime pay. But if you'd like to opine on that and start this discussion off there, I think it's a valid point to be made. And I think it's a great place to start. Because a lot of people think that overtime pay, as described in an earlier article, hourly pay, is the answer to the whole thing. What say you? Poet, I'm going to start with you because you're usually the silent majority in this. What say you on this?
All right. I watched a whole hour and change.
Mm-hmm.
I opined on it. Over the road, I get paid by the mile.
Mm-hmm.
65 cents a mile. Canadian, okay?
Right.
Not U.S.
Okay.
So that's
let's forget, just for the sake of argument, that we're talking about the difference between Canadian and American. But just talk dollars and cents, and
okay,
make it make sense for us.
Okay, I have paid 65 cents a mile.
Mm-hmm.
If after 40 hours I'm supposed, or 65 cents a mile, if after 40 hours I'm supposed to get time and a half, that's 97.5 cents a mile.
How do you differentiate the cents per mile versus the hours per mile? Where do you even get that correlation?
The only time that a driver up here gets paid hourly is if he's doing local,
right,
or short regional. And short regional here is 250 miles or less.
Right.
Radius.
But how do you make the association from miles to hours? I'm just trying to understand your logic.
Okay, so figure we're restricted to 100 or 110 kilometers, so 60 or 65 miles an hour. Your average is only going to be 80 to 85 miles. 80 to 85 kilometers an hour, so 50 to 55 miles per hour, okay, times 65. And no, I didn't do the math on that, but
your argument precludes the fact that you would either be sitting or driving. So it's
the last company I worked for, I got detention time from minute 1.
Right. Well, that's another point I raised in my video. But
right.
Again, the idea of keeping hours and miles separate is a really hard one for most people to grasp. And let me tell you this. The current pay structure as we know it does not need adjustment. Okay? What does need adjustment is what we're choosing to do with our time.
Mm-hmm.
We as truck drivers sign these rate cons, knowing full well that the rate con allows for 2 hours free. And yet we accept that. So we just gave away $120 using your numbers, Poet. We just gave away $120 of our hard-earned money, saying you can have it. I don't want it.
But
that's
the thing is,
in my book. That's in my book the first place we need to go.
The thing is that other companies I've worked for wanted us to give up 2 hours either side of the load.
Right.
Now you're looking at 4 hours.
You know what I say, Poet? I say I give them bubkiss. I ain't giving anything to anyone. All right? If I'm doing it, I'm earning it. If I'm in it, I'm making it. It's just that simple.
If I'm in the seat, I get paid.
Pretty much, exactly.
Okay, which is where e-logs come in really handy.
Good deal. Good deal. I'm glad we agree on that. Larry, what about you? If you didn't work for the company you currently work for, and you were told, you know what, you can only work 40 hours, and I got no help for you pay-wise, what would you say?
If I could only work 40 hours, I'd be happy.
Well, mind you, your pay rate's not going to change. So if you can only work 40 hours, what does that do to you?
Not a whole lot. It gives me more time to do whatever else I want to do.
Or
right,
have
but you're
another, job.
Oh, hang on. I gave you your chance already. The point I'm making, though, is if you're only told you can only work 40 hours, according to your company, I'm not talking about laws, so don't even go there. According to your company, if you only work 40 hours, and they're not going to give you a pay increase, your paycheck just went down considerably, did it not?
Oh, yes. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So the reason I'm asking the question is because someone else other than you is making the call on what you're worth.
Right.
Basis of my argument is knowing your worth. Would you do that?
No.
Okay. Fade, I see you raising your hand here. Where do you want to attack me? No, you can't.
I'm sorry. I'm having problems hitting my mic button.
Yeah. No problem.
Nobody's dictating.
No, never said that. I knew you were going to say that. No, the argument I'm posing is simply this. The study comes out and says that they don't have a basis to go on to make an argument for overtime pay, or the earlier study I referenced in the video I made the other day. So they're looking to make recommendations on how to improve driver pay and driver retention. That's what the whole study was about. And yet at the same time, they don't even have their data together, nor can they. And yet they're trying to offer information as to how to back up and make a worthwhile argument behind this overtime pay argument I made in the video. So the point I'm making is, why change something? And Grumpy would jump on this. Why change something if it's not broken? That's the basis of my entire argument. Knowing your worth comes down to you deciding what you're willing to work for. If you have a system in place, like for you, example, Fate, you know what you're worth. You know how to get it. You have a system that works for you. So why not let that system dictate what everyone else does instead of forcing laws and rules down everyone's throat, i.e. overtime pay for truckers?
So I'll probably be in the minority on this one as well.
No, well,
in my driving career, I don't feel like I've ever been underpaid.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
good.
You know, I feel like if I needed a raise or I needed something, I went and asked for it. When I was in the union, it was dictated for me. Like, you know, my worth when I was with the union is whatever the collective bargaining agreement said. I feel like I was paid very handsomely even when I worked for the union. So maybe that's because of where I live. You know, I don't.
And the fact that you have the courage to admit, and the fact that you do admit that you think you're in the minority really truly says something about our industry, Pete. I mean, good for you that you're telling us that. And I really wish there was probably more people that could respond with a different answer. I really do. Maybe because unfortunately, one of the biggest problems we have in the industry today is retention. How paying truckers better could solve this problem is just but a tip of the iceberg of the conversation we need to have. I mean, really, honestly, it all comes down to pay. You are in the minority, unfortunately. You know, not all people have the capacity to put together a situation favors them in a way that allows them to get paid what they're worth. You know, if you take, for example, what I brought, introduced this whole thing about, you know, if you sign a rate con giving away free the first 2 hours of wait time, you already know you're going to have. You've just told someone you're not worth that 2 hours. Go ahead, Vic. Go ahead.
You don't agree to a rate con based on, how do I say this? So I'm selective at the shippers and receivers I go to because I'm aware some take longer than others. And I don't want to sit there and waste my time, right?
Mm-hmm.
When I book a load, I'm booking a load based on like I'm paid per mile. I'm not paid for the hours that load might take me. Do you understand what I'm saying? So like,
I know a lot more goes into choosing a load than just that by itself, but I use that as an example because
you're not giving away anything though, because here's the thing, and this is going to sound like an asshole statement, and I don't mean for it to come across rude, okay? Like, I just got done doing a load today. Matter of fact, I was talking to Midlife earlier this morning. I just got done with a load that if I broke it down for the hours that I was there on the load, driving, sleeping, whatever, going to the restroom, it ends up being like $138 an hour. Like, well, don't like that's like a lot of loads that are out there.
Right.
If you're running the right lanes. Now I get there's some lanes that are not profitable. I get that. I understand that. But that's all, like, for somebody like me, that's like my decision to go to the bad paying lanes. You know what I mean? But when I think about, like, if I was to break down a week of the hours worked, and when I say a week, I mean even sleeping in my truck. I think last week when I made a video about it, it ended up being like $72 an hour for every hour that I worked. Like, and
how often do you think the average driver thinks like you do, and that it's more than just one potential part of the equation? I mean, I brought up the detention because I think that's one of the major problems, but the other thing is, you know, what you as a driver understand and accept. I mean, when you think about it, and hold on, Paul, I'll get to you in a minute. When you think about it, there's so much that goes into accepting a rate con. You know, you've got detention. How many miles? Is it easy in, easy out? Is there special permits? Is there special load circumstances? So much, you know, I mean, what kind of time there is from start to stop in addition to the miles. There's a lot to it. I mean, you don't just look at a rate con, and I learned this early on. Don't just take at face value that what you see on paper is everything. There's a lot of hidden things brokers don't tell you, and sometimes will not tell you because they know you're going to run from it. Because when you find out what's really going on, sometimes they don't want, you know, they don't want the responsibility. But all that being said, how often do people honestly look deep into that and make those right decisions? I mean, honestly, and that's the main reason I have the show, because I want people to be more aware of things like that. Larry, go ahead.
Hey, real quick, you're saying you're talking about Raycon, but how many company drivers actually see that?
True.
You're talking about detention pay, but every company has a policy, whether it's an hour, whether it's 2 hours. Here in my company, I have to give 4 hours before I start getting paid.
Yep. Yep.
So the Raycon a normal company driver isn't going to see that.
Well, even as far as a company driver, I mean, you still have the decision process in place too. You may not see the detention. You may not see the things, the same way an owner operator would, but you still have the power to say no. If a load sounds like you've got to give up that 4 hours, what if you just said, no, I don't want to give up that 4 hours? You'd virtually have to quit your job on the sound of things, but yeah. But
I would say
the choice is yours.
Right. But a lot of company drivers don't get that option to say, no, I don't want to haul that load because of forced dispatch.
Right. Right.
A lot of these companies utilize that forced dispatch that way drivers can't turn down a load just because it's some area they don't want to go to.
Right. Okay, Paul, what say you, my friend?
I have to agree with Larry.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Right. If you refuse a forced dispatch, you might as well clean your truck out and start hoofing it down the road.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Yep.
Now, rate con is the rate contract, I'm understanding.
Right. Rate contract. Exactly. Yes.
Okay. So, Fate, I agree with you. Okay. I agree with you. As a company driver, I don't have a choice. They tell me where to go and how to get there. You, on the other hand, you can pick and choose your lanes, your loads.
Right.
Company drivers can't. And for the last, all right, so say 50 or 48 years as a company driver, I have had no choice but to take whatever load was handed to me at risk of losing my job.
Well, some of us do and some of us don't. I mean, everybody's got a different setup in trucking. Unfortunately, that's hard life.
But Fate is an owner operator. So is Larry. So is Midlife. So is Sumper.
Midlife's actually a company driver.
Okay.
Yeah.
You're in a bit of a different situation.
I'm in pretty much the same boat as Midlife. I'm currently a company driver.
Okay.
Sumper and Bo, Larry and Fate Truckin, they are the only owner operators right now.
Oh, but
on this path. So
you understand what I'm saying?
I get it. I get it.
If your company tells you go from point A to point B and then deliver to point C,
believe me, I'm not having this conversation for the department, or not department, for the pure fact that it only helps one side of the industry. I'm trying I'm trying to talk in a sense that it helps everybody.
Okay.
Did you come to that, Fate?
What was that?
Did you have something you wanted to add? Because I saw your hand up.
I think Poet wanted to finish something.
Oh, okay. No.
Oh, okay.
No, I just wanted to make your point, Fade, and I just wanted to get to one other person that hadn't made his point yet. So go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
No. After you. Go ahead.
I just wanted to clarify one thing. Like, there's something you sign before you even get a Raycon that actually does describe everything that the broker might not tell you. And that's the carrier packet that you sign with a brokerage or a shipper or whoever.
Right.
That supersedes, is that the right word? The Raycon, if that makes any sense. Right? The Raycon's for the load.
Any Raycon that's issued after that point. So yeah, I get that. You're
right. So if you don't know everything about a brokerage, that's 100% your fault. 100%. And I'm not defending brokerages here.
by any means, but it is your responsibility, or like my responsibility, to know and understand what the fine print is. You know what I mean? When it comes to a company job, I have empathy because I was a company driver for over 20 years. And according to what I'm hearing, like, I feel fortunate that I never felt underpaid in what I did. You made a comment earlier that safety is a direct reflection of what we're being paid. It's not. That's a direct reflection on the CDL holder.
Yeah. Well, no, the reflection was kind of opposite what you just worded. It's not safety is a reflection on pay. It's pay is a cause of safety issues reported in the study. That's what they said. They said that safety was reflected in those drivers that had poor pay conditions. That's what the study said.
And that's the company's fault?
I didn't say it was. That's just what that's just what the study pointed out. I pointed it out like the study said as a means to prove the point that I was making. Not saying that everybody's perfect and everybody's got, the perfect answer. But before we go on and do some tips, what say you?
In my last job, I was on the safety committee for over 3 years.
Yeah, I remember you said that.
Okay. Pay has nothing to do with safety. It's the driver's mindset.
I'll agree with that. Yes, sir.
Okay, and that's the only
and
thing.
The study really didn't get into that differentiation.
Oh, probably not.
I was just again, I was just using the data from the study or what was read up by the editor. So
I'll leave it alone.
Yep, not a problem. Thumper, did you have anything to add to this topic before I move into some tips that would help everybody?
Yeah, actually, I do.
Sure.
Drivers sitting there complaining about pay and stuff like that. It's not really the pay that's the issue. It's when you get treated like garbage or something. It's a mindset. It's your emotions and stuff like that. It is hard being out here, being a truck driver and doing what you're doing, being away from your family and everything else. But at the same time, if you're if the company you work for is who you are, you're going to work harder. You're going to love your job. You're going to love what you do. And you could sacrifice some of that stuff. Like my drivers, they get paid pretty good. I'm not going to go into details. They get paid good. I treat them like family, which makes they working for me. And whenever they ask for time off, I'll be like, yep, just all I ask for is like a 2-week notice. But like in my instance that I'm going through right now, there are family emergencies out there.
It happens to everybody.
So when you're and me when I was a company driver, when I got treated like crap, I felt like I wasn't getting paid enough because I was putting too much effort into what I was doing. So, I mean, my kind of thing is like when I have a driver to me and says, hey, I need a pay raise, I'll be like, okay, well, let's see if we can sit down and figure out whatever, and come to an agreement on this. But at the same time, I'll look at them and say, well, how are you mentally? Like, do you feel unappreciated and stuff like that? And if they do, we try to work something out. Mentality stuff. Yes, people got bills to pay and stuff like that. And there's a lot of, the line of work I'm doing right now, there's layovers. Like just recently, I had a driver come up to me and says, I should be getting paid for cleaning out my trailer. Well, I'm going to tell you this, I've never heard of a cattle operation where they pay their drivers to clean out their trailers. So I broke it down for him, and after I explained to him, okay, you're getting paid this much, you're getting and you're getting this much, like say this load is this much, you're getting, and we figured it out hourly. And he looks at me, he goes, well, I never thought of it that way. Just throwing numbers out there, because like I said, I'm not trying to go into too much detail. In retrospect, he was getting paid close to 45 to $55 an hour. Like I said, I'm just throwing numbers out there, so I don't want somebody jumping me or anything like that.
Nope.
But I mean, we sit and think minimum wage is how much, and they're out there flipping burgers or whatever else. You're still coming out ahead. It's just you gotta face that. You gotta blow up the whole thing and see. Okay, I'm getting paid this hour. This is how much I'm putting in per day, and you gotta decide right then and there if it's actually worth you being there or doing what you're doing.
True that. And by the way, grumpy old truckers in the background, totally agreeing with what you said, Thumper. Just to let you know. Midlife, what do you think about this whole argument over detention pay? There are those that say in the industry, detention pay is probably one of the bigger reasons why drivers feel like they're not paid their worth. What's your feelings there?
All right. There's something better than detention pay. It's called not being detained. I've had 9 hours of detention pay all year. But anyway, and I get paid detention after 1 hour.
Sometimes you can't avoid it. Yeah.
On an LTL, and I get paid after 4. But here's the deal. You want to be paid detention? I'll pay you. If I'm your boss, I'll pay you $27 an hour or $30 an hour for detention. However, you have to be on the clock. That's right. You got to be on duty. So your clock is ticking. So if you're going to say that you're going to get paid for detention, you're going to be on duty working. Because the truth is,
supposed to do it that way because you're
no, you don't. You're not required. You are not required to be on duty when you're loading or unloading. You're only required to be on duty when you're loading and unloading if you are doing the loading or unloading or supervising it. If you're in the sleeper berth, you can do a split sleeper berth, and then you still have your whole clock, and you haven't lost any time.
Midlife, he just loves popping my bubble.
Do you want your cake and eat it too?
Right back on me every time. Yeah, damn it, I want chocolate. What's your point?
Look, the truth is, here's the way this industry works. If we got locked into a 40-hour work week, we're going to lose a bunch of money because the trucking carriers don't have the money to pay us anymore. Warner's operating at 109% of revenue. Heartland Express, 106%. Morton just put out a message today that they're operating in a negative. How many of these companies, actually Martin, not Morton, how many of these companies how long can they continue to operate negative and we're still demanding more and more money from them? Every industry doesn't think they're paid enough. My wife's a teacher. They have to have a required degree and she gets half what I make.
Yeah, I've got to stop you really briefly and bust your balls on something there. Grumpy, you're going to love me for this one, so pay attention. You know, Data, you're slipping, my friend, because last time you were on my show, you said, and I quote, Warner is operating at 105% of now they're 109%.
New quarter just came out.
You really gotta wonder.
New quarter just came out. They're 109% of revenue.
You don't even recognize the fact that I'm messing with you right now, but okay, that's fine. Poet, last point. Now I'm gonna move on to the tips.
Last point. I agree with Kate. I agree with Midlife. When I'm in the seat, I want to get paid. No, if I'm in the bunk, no, I'm sleeping.
True.
This is where the ELD comes back into play.
Yeah, but the ELD does not solve everybody's problems. I mean, it solves some, but not all. So let me get on to some very valid points here. I want to make everybody a little bit smarter on the panel. Stick around because I want to get your feel on this. If you want to offer anything I've missed, by all means, please do. Look, the idea of pay comes up. Here's 5 things I put together that I think would probably greatly help you determine your worth. And they're not all directly related to pay, but they're all designed at helping you figure out your worth. Understand your pay structures, number 1. Don't just accept what you see. Okay? Are you being paid by mile, by load? Understanding how it works will affect your earnings. The article highlights flaws in per mile pay, and it's like pushing drivers to work unsafe conditions and all that, like I mentioned earlier. But if you sit down and calculate your true earnings potential under different models and do like Midlife does and use a spreadsheet, you can actually figure that out for your own satisfaction. Factor in all of your time. This is tip 2. Not just driving time. Everything you do has a cost beside it. One major mistake many truckers make is only focusing on the miles they drive. They don't factor in detention. They don't factor in secondary causes, and they don't factor in every single thing they do. If you're not getting compensated for it, you're losing money. Consider safety over speed. Okay? A lot of people, this is tip number 3, a lot of people don't even think about that. As much as safety doesn't factor, like, Fate mentioned earlier, it does have its consequences. If you take the time, do your job safely, and do it right, chasing the miles, as it were, you'll find more satisfaction in your job, and you'll be able to more easily calculate your worth. Evaluate your retention and find out whether you feel secure in the job you do. A high turnover is a red flag. So if you're looking at a company that has a high turnover, ask yourself why. If you're working for a carrier with a 100% turnover rate, there's a good chance you're going to be one of those 100%. And last but not least, demand transparency. Okay? If you know going in what you're worth and you figure it out on paper, as Fate said a minute ago, there's a carrier packet, then there's a rate, and then there's your contract with the company. If you know it, you won't blow it. Now, guys, I've gone through some basic tips that I think will basically summarize how you as an individual, whether you're company or paid over the road, you can figure it out. It will help you. Now, if I missed something, please take this opportunity. Let's educate the audience. Let's make it worth their while tuning in to this overtime episode of Know Your Worth. Fate, what say you? Hit it again. One more time.
I'm having problems. I'm sorry. It's hard on my little screen here to hit it.
Yeah, you gotta pat your fingers.
Yeah. I think everything you said is pretty accurate. I mean, like I shared a half hour ago, I don't feel like I've ever been underpaid, but maybe that's because of where I live too. That could be a big thing as an owner operator.
A whole host of factors in that, but I agree with you.
Yeah. Midlife made a comment earlier, don't get held up. I don't want to, that's neither here nor there, because what Midlife does is different than what I do. What I do, you are going to get held up. You are going to get held up at shippers and receivers. But true. I don't know if anybody ever watches my channel. You're never going to hear me complain about like detention pay and stuff like that, because Midlife hit the nail right on the head. I don't know if you saw me clapping.
Yes, I did.
Everybody I haul for pays me detention. I'm sleeping and getting paid anywhere from $35 to $55 an hour to be asleep. Like,
yes.
Right. I don't look at it as revenue lost or I can't get to my, you know what I mean? Like, I don't book myself so tight that I can't get to my next load. You know what I mean? So yeah, I think your tips are really good. Midlife works for a good company. Okay.
Yes,
He'll tell you that. He did the research. Do the research.
Yep.
I mean, no disrespect to Midlife. If Midlife can do it, we all can do it. If I can do it, we all can do it. You understand what I'm saying?
Yep. I was just going to say the same thing about yourself, Fate. Midlife, did you want to touch on anything I may have missed or add anything to it?
Like he said, you got to do the research and networking. When I first started, I didn't know the questions to ask. I don't think any of us do before we went to truck driving school. I mean, we literally don't know what to ask.
Exactly.
And I went to TMC And I walked in there and I looked around. I went to Prime. I looked around. Now, most people can't just pick up and drive or fly out and check something out, but I was going to, because I'm making a decision that's going to affect my life. I'm going to be married to whatever company I went to for a year. I even went to Swift in Waco, Georgia to check them out before deciding to go to Millis Transfer. And I'll be honest, I went to Millis Transfer because, look, they did training instead of team driving. They had sweet trucks. I mean, the trucks had TV in them and everything else, which I almost never turned on. So you don't know what is important to you when you start asking questions. Did I even ask about detention? No, because I didn't know what detention was.
Wow.
And now I'm with the company, and like you said, I do something completely different. I'm delivering forklifts, pallet jacks. When I pull into one of these cold warehouses and you guys are all waiting in line, and I get in the other line and just go straight through the front gate, I know every one of you is pissed. I hear it on the CB. Motherfucker, what do you think? I love it. and then I pass you on my way out and kind of wave, you know.
Really
gotta be delivering the right thing.
Yep. Poet, what say you? Do you think I hit it on the head? Do you think I missed anything? You want to add something? What say you, my friend?
I really can't say much because my pad is shutting down.
That's why I got to you
see
before.
you next show. Thanks, guys.
God bless.
I learned a bunch of shit today.
That's good to hear. I'm glad you were part of the show. Thank you for being here. Larry, what say you? You got anything to offer? Anything to add? Anything I missed?
I can't think of anything right now, but I mean, you did it like everyone's saying. Do your research on companies you go to.
Yes, sir.
I mean, it's like Midlife was saying. If you're new to this industry, you're not going to know what to ask. So make a list of stuff that you want to know about the company.
Yep. That's the way you do it. I mean, just like I put in a vlog I made, I have another channel called World of Truckin'. I put down in that World of Truckin' vlog that, you know what? It took me a long time to figure out just how to learn to be where I am today. Okay? And it wasn't just in trucking. It was a culmination of many, many years worth of breaks, mistakes, and things that needed to be learned. Thumper, what about you? Do you think that I hit everything, or do you think there's something that we can definitely add on to this list of things that people could learn from?
Well, I'm gonna kind of go off a little bit of the beaten path. You know, everybody makes good, valid points and everything else, but there's a big issue that is avoided and that is make sure you're mentally prepared. Like I said, you're away from your family. You're away from your families. You're away from your loved ones. You miss holidays. You miss birthdays. You miss important. And that it takes a toll on people. I see a lot of people break down from that. If you're physically, or not physically, if you're not mentally ready for that, you're not going to succeed. So that a lot of people avoid that. Yes, trucking, like Midlife, he's in a great company. I was in a great company and turned into an owner. Faith is his own owner. Larry works for company and you work for a company you both enjoy. So, but you gotta be mentally ready to sacrifice a lot of stuff in your life to be in the industry. And that's something I try to push to a lot. Yes, sometimes truckers are the most underpaid people in the United States, but there are opportunities out there to regain some of that back. And that's the main thing. Mentally prepare. Make sure you look into what you're look into the company you're going into. Explore your options. And God bless America. God bless everybody who's in the affected areas with the wildfires and the hurricanes and everything else. We don't do it just for us and our families. We do it for you guys.
Amen on that. Guys, I'll tell you what, there's some good words of wisdom going on here. We always look to end the show on a positive. And we are certainly all about doing that. You know, there's a lot to be said about knowing your worth. There's a lot to be said about making news sensible and digestible. Subscribe to our channel. Keep coming back. Hit the like button. And you know what? We're going to be here giving you praise. Knowing your worth is only part of it. The rest of it is up to you. Check out our World of Trucking blog. Check us out Wednesdays and Saturdays, 7 o'clock. And don't forget, guys, it's the truck that makes the deliveries, but it's you that makes the difference. Till next time, we're going to be here, keeping it real, while you keep it rolling.